Welcome to today's KM World webinar brought to you by Aqua. I'm Mary D. Ojala, Conference Program Director, Information Today, Inc. I will be the moderator for today's broadcast. So our presentation today is titled Top 3 Ways to Accelerate the Delivery of Your Digital Experiences. Before we get started, I want to explain how you can be a part of this broadcast. There will be a question and answer session, so if you have a question during the presentation, just type it into the question box provided and click on the submit button. We will try to get to as many questions as possible, but if your question has not been selected during the show, you will receive an email response to it within a few days. Plus, all viewers will be entered to win a $100 Amazon gift card just for viewing today's webinar. And now to introduce our speaker for today, Maggie Schroeder, Senior Product Marketing Manager, Aqua. And now let me pass the event over to Maggie Schroeder, Senior Product Marketing Manager, Aqua. Maggie, go ahead.
I'm a Senior Product Marketing Manager at Aqua. I actually cover our Drupal Cloud portfolio. So that's what we would call, more of the technical side of our portfolio, and it is a companion to our Marketing Cloud, which together create the Aqua Open Digital Experience Platform. So today we're going to be talking about the top 3 ways to accelerate the delivery of your digital experiences. And to start off with the day, we'll talk about, why do you need to be thinking about accelerating the delivery? Why is today's standard and the way we deliver today not enough? And then we're going to talk about how to enable your developers to deliver and innovate it faster, how to enable your marketers to contribute, and then lastly, how to streamline the management of application delivery. And so without further ado, let me hop into some of the reasons why you should be considering, ways to accelerate and speed up the delivery of your experiences today. And the first part of this, right, is that your buyer's journey is increasingly moving online, right, more and more. And of course, everyone is talking today about the pandemic, but even before that, we were seeing a trend of increasing engagement with brands, both on mobile, online in general, or even across multiple platforms as well, right? And CIOs at the end of the day are really on the hook for making sure that their organization is empowered to deliver experiences that meet the buyer at every phase of their journey that is now online. And I referenced this slightly, right? But there are more and more channels that customers are engaging on day to day. I think one of my favorite examples that I give is that at the beginning of the pandemic, right? I actually didn't have an Apple Watch, so I guess I'm a late adopter. But now, since the pandemic, I've purchased an Apple Watch and I've been engaging more and more with my Apple Watch, right? And that's a whole new channel where I'm expecting brands that I engage with to deliver experiences. Another great example of this might be at Amazon Alexa or a Google Home. I actually end up every single day asking my Google Home what the weather is like, right? And I'm expecting that content to be delivered to me in a consistent manner, and also having the content be relevant. I don't want that Google Home delivering me the weather in New York. I'm actually based in Boston. Or even worse, right, the weather in LA. That's not relevant to me. So while, we're moving more and more online, we're also engaging with more and more platforms. And that means all of our customers as well are engaging with more and more platforms. And so as a result, right, we talked about how CIOs are on the hook to deliver these experiences online to cater to every part of the buyer's journey. But it's not just online, right? It's delivering these experiences across every platform where their customers are engaging with this content. And finally, right, let's look at the fact that, we're not exactly the most patient anymore, right? We're expecting this content to be delivered fast, right? We're expecting this content to load almost instantly and to always be available when we need it, right? If I'm looking down at my Apple Watch and I need to look up, a certain route for my run, I don't want to have to wait even a couple minutes before I start running, right? I'm outside, I've got my sneakers on, and I'm ready to go. I need that content to be delivered to me immediately. And so there's really a new normal for speed and the speed that experiences are delivered to us. And again, making sure that that content's relevant. And beyond just the speed of the content that already exists being delivered, you also need the ability to deliver content in response to current events, right? You need to be able to tell your customers how you're responding to things like COVID, how you're responding to other current events that, again, your customers are expecting you to have a response, to have a stance on. And so we need to essentially enable, right, this content to be delivered to customers as fast as possible to make sure we're meeting their needs and their expectations, again, at every phase of the buyer's journey and then consistently across all of the platforms. And finally, as more and more customers begin engaging with our brands online, they expect these experiences to be secure. We've seen a ton in the past few years how security or lack of security across both platform and application can affect a brand's reputation at the end of the day. And so it's really critical that, again, as we expand and as we scale these experiences, that we're always keeping security at the forefront of our mind so as to not become that next brand that's recognized only for their most recent security breach, therefore losing customer loyalty, customer trust, and also losing the prospects for customers who might have been potential customers, right, who might have been evaluating that brand. So really a lot of complexity arises in delivering experiences today. And so the challenge here is really, again, going back to the heart of it and the core, is getting your customers the content that they want. And what makes this super challenging, and again, I walked through this slightly, right, but they want to engage at every phase of the buyer's journey, which is no longer linear, right? We used to go straight from awareness to interest to comparison and then end up at advocacy. But now it's not exactly the most straightforward path. And beyond that, right, to increase complexity beyond just, customers engaging at different phases with different content, they're also engaging on, once again, these different platforms. And you can see we've got the Alexa up there. We've got applications, even social wearables, kiosks even, right? Customers are expecting that when they go to, even a kiosk or see, a sign that they might want to engage with. Digital signage is huge nowadays. They need that content to be consistent no matter where they're engaging with your brand. And so it becomes difficult, right, to deliver, again, relevant content across all these platforms at every phase of the buyer's journey. And it doesn't just take, one singular person doing this, right? It takes a village. So it takes enabling your entire team to contribute. But what makes that difficult, right, is that across every single phase, not all of the platforms that exist today cater to all of these personas or all of these team members, rather, who ultimately contribute to your digital experience. We've always typically seen, developers and platform administrators being highly engaged in the building of digital experiences from, the site build to even the application build. And then you see InfoSec, right, security stakeholders really saying, again, thinking back to that market trend that we discussed, how are you ensuring that you're maintaining security of both your application that you're building to deliver these experiences as well as the platform, right? And so that kind of throws a wrench into things for those developers who want to go fast and those platform administrators who just want to optimize that experience. And then finally, right, site builders who might not be as technical as your typical developer are evolving, as well as digital marketers. Both want to become, and experienced designers as well, we're seeing evolve, and want to become more and more integrated in this experience of building out these sites, building out these applications, and ultimately contributing content to these experiences to make sure that they're relevant for customers. And not just relevant, but personalized as well, right? So at the end of the day, it's all about how do you integrate more of your team members to contribute to this process to further accelerate the launch of these cohesive experiences. And so I hinted at this in the beginning, right? But today we're going to be walking through 3 of the key ways that you can enable your team and all members of your team at the end of the day to accelerate the delivery of these digital experiences. So first we'll be hopping into, helping those primary stakeholders who have typically been at the forefront of building out a digital experience. We're talking about your developers and helping them to innovate faster. And then we're going to talk through how to enable marketers. Once again, marketers, and myself being a marketer, right? I always want to get involved and try to help contribute to what these developers are doing, these experiences that they're creating that are awesome, right? And how do I make myself, more available and more educated, and ultimately enable myself as a marketer, and thinking through how to enable marketers in general to contribute. And so we'll walk through some low-code use cases and how low-code is really helping to accelerate and to enable marketers to help contribute and take some of the workload off of the shoulders of those developers. And then lastly, we'll talk about streamlining application availability as well as security. So thinking about those security team members, the security operations team, as well as some of your systems administrators, or maybe just your IT team in general. How do we make their life easier when it comes to delivering and ultimately supporting these experiences that are going to many, many, many customers, right? How are you going to meet their demand of speed and scale while also keeping, again, these experiences and the customer data super secure? So again, I mentioned first, we're going to step into, how to enable your developers to innovate faster. And one of the things that's holding your developers back, or a few things here, right, is that we've got junior developers, right, and senior developers. But oftentimes, again, your senior developers really want to be focusing on, innovation and contributing to these sites and these applications quickly, and working on really, what I would say is the fun stuff, right? And meanwhile, you've got your junior developers who, again, they might just be starting out, and sometimes it's complicated to install a software stack for even just a development environment, right? So even just getting your development environment up and running can sometimes be tough for a more junior member of your team. Second, when it comes to those development environments, right, they do have to be secure still. So it's not like you're just going into a development environment and it's okay to just have a free-for-all. You need to make sure that if you're using customer data, even for development or even for testing, that environment is secure and checks all of the boxes that your CISO might have mandated, right? And so that can ultimately slow down your developers from innovating at the end of the day. Next, of course, there's always this issue of, hey, but it works on my machine. I think I've heard it from so many developers before, right? It's like, it works on my machine. I don't know why it works on yours. And specifically when it comes to Drupal development, of course, making Windows work with the Drupal development environment can be super cumbersome, right? So a lot of hours go into making sure that these development environments work across all of your development environments, regardless of what machine they might be running. And then finally, you of course always have the issue of maybe running into a slow computer. I know, especially since I've transitioned to working from home, I might not be running a specific development environment, but I've definitely had my computer hinder some of the work that I've been doing just because it can't handle the load that I put on it. So computers can definitely impact the productivity of a developer if it doesn't have enough processing power to support, again, these development environments and these efforts that the developers need to work through. So again, if we're looking at it here, right, developers and builders of these sites and these experiences at the end of the day, they really need to be empowered to innovate faster. And one of the quickest ways to do this, right, is to have a tried and true development environment that's going to help support that developer, whether they be junior or a senior developer. And really, no matter what their skill level, it will check all of the boxes of the CISO, and it ultimately will launch super quickly and won't hold them back from doing the innovative work that they want to be doing. And an ideal development environment, again, really has a lot of things, and I have a ton of them up here on the slide for you to look through. But, again, just going back to it, developers have to really jump through hoops to get their local machines ready, and these are all of the hoops that they have to jump through. These are some ideal pieces of an awesome development environment. And they need to get all of this ready before they begin writing code and contributing to a project. And inevitably, right, they're going to have to research and download and install and configure and troubleshoot a stack of technology before they can even start what we would consider that innovative real work, the fun stuff. And this can take, up to more than 2 weeks, right, for these to even configure a new environment with all of these features for a newly onboarded developer. So forget about just everyone who's on your team today. If you welcome someone new, it's going to take additional time to get them an environment that's configured, again, with all of these ideal tools. And so this is the portion where I will introduce Aqua Cloud IDE, right? So one of the hugest benefits of Aqua Cloud IDE is that new team members don't have to spend that week or more setting up a local LAMP stack and setting up tools like Composer and Drush and Xdebug to begin developing with Drupal, right? Within a few minutes, developers are ready to start writing code. So there's no need to grant system admin privileges to developers on company hardware, or configure a network or firewall exceptions. You can actually just keep using your own machine, or your new developer can bring their own machine and network, and it's all kept super clean and super pristine within the Aqua Cloud IDE. So ultimately, you're going to ramp up developers faster. You're going to be able to, again, you're not going to have that red tape from your CISO. This actually checks all of the boxes you need from security. And beyond that, you don't need to spend time, again, installing software or troubleshooting your local machine. So, again, time you can be spent innovating because it's already set up for you. And really, at the end of the day, the Cloud IDE development environments, they're optimized for Drupal development. They have all of those features that I listed on the previous slide that highlight an ideal development environment. And you can get them up and running once again in minutes. And so there's no need to share space. Oh, and lastly, of course, right, I mentioned, your local machine slowing you down. There's no need to share that space on your machine that stores your email and your calendars and chat services and whatnot. The Cloud IDE is all 100% in the cloud, which is huge. So you're going to take advantage of that speed that the cloud has to offer, but you're going to be able to get there super fast. Again, just within minutes, Cloud IDE can be provisioned. So tons of benefits here for your developers, and really at the end of the day, just gets them to the fun stuff faster. And so, of course, we have a little screenshot here of how you can, what the welcome screen looks like. There are tons of demos on the Aqua website. If you're super interested in Cloud IDE, feel free to drop a question, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. But regardless, there are tons of demos, once again, up on our website. And there's actually a whole page dedicated to the Aqua Cloud IDE. I urge you to check it out if you're a developer, or maybe you've got some developers on your team who are looking for a better way to develop with Drupal. Great, so maybe, so once again, developers are who we've always thought of as being the key contributors to digital experiences. But I'd say the one thing that a developer gets all the time are requests from marketers, right? Marketers are constantly relying on their developer counterparts to help make the changes they want to the content and ultimately to the sites and experiences that they're working together to deliver to customers. But some of those content edits are rather quick, right? So ultimately, how do we enable marketers to contribute? And what's really holding your marketing team back from contributing? Well, for one thing, right, spinning up a new site takes a long time and involves many team members. And I'm not just talking about your developers, I'm also talking about your marketing team, right? Your marketing team is ultimately contributing that messaging that's going to go on the site, and some of the look and feel is being influenced by the brand team as well, and then is given to the developer. So there's, again, a lot of moving pieces that go into creating a new site, a lot of team members who are expected to contribute, and this can ultimately be a pretty long process. And next I mentioned brand, right? So the brand team will contribute the style, the color palette, the look and feel that they want all of these sites to have. And the issue here that arises is that as you begin to create more and more sites, even microsites at the end of the day, it's hard to enforce brand governance across all of these sites as they scale. And so, again, as you spin up new sites, enforcing that brand governance can take time, or it can be lost in the process altogether. That's definitely a risk that is held as, again, you begin to scale. And next, of course, there are low-code site building tools available. We've all seen them. There are even commercials out there right now about easy ways that you can create sites. But that being said, these low-code site building tools aren't typically built for an enterprise. They're not typically built to ensure the security that you need from an enterprise site. They're not built to be compliant. And ultimately, they're not built to perform for large-scale audiences. And so as a result, it's really hard for a lot of organizations to adopt low code, despite marketing teams wanting that kind of functionality. And beyond that, if there are enterprise-grade low-code site building tools that are available, and they can be really tedious to get up and running. And because of that, marketing teams and ultimately developers who would be tasked, and IT personnel too, who would be tasked with setting up these site building tools for these enterprise-grade platforms, it typically holds them back from doing it just because of the level of effort to get up and running with these low-code tools. And so once again, what we're really talking about here is saying, hey, developers and builders, let's help you out by enabling digital marketers, experienced designers, which, take it or leave it, experienced designers and site builders. You might not call them that, but, those really ambitious people that might lay within your marketing team or even within your development team as more of maybe a junior developer to contribute more actively to the process of building and designing and launching these experiences. And so Aqua Site Studio, if anyone online is familiar with Aqua, you might have seen that we acquired Cohesion, which is a low-code site builder for Drupal, just about a year ago. And so we actually rebranded that as Site Studio. And the reason being is because ultimately what Site Studio is it's a studio to build sites, right? So what it does is it enables business users to create layout changes, to reuse features and components, and update content. And all of, once again, these components that are created, they're standardized and they are governed by one master design system that's deployed across all areas of the website and all of the new sites that are being created within Site Studio. So what that means is that marketers who might not have as much technical background can ultimately use a drag and drop interface to use pre-created components that are governed by that style guide to create sites super quickly. And again, this is without the need to go and tap a developer and say, hey, can you help me out? Can you help me make this landing page? Right? They have all the tools that they need to create these landing pages. And of course, I mentioned before, right, that a lot of these enterprise-grade low-code site builders, they can be tough to get up and running. And so the great thing about Site Studio is that it's ready to use out of the box. It comes with 50 unique templates, styles, and UI components already. And then there's, of course, the option for developers to go in and to create custom components and to update the style guide based on their brand. And so ultimately what that means is that you'll be ready to go faster than any other, again, low-code, enterprise-grade site builder on the market. And with all of that, because it's built on top of Drupal, it is completely secure, it is compliant, and it's going to perform at that enterprise scale. So no matter how many people are accessing your new sites that are deployed with Site Studio, it'll handle that load, and it's built to handle that load. And so you can actually see here a team member, right, going in and updating a page. And you could see there that they went in, and when they updated, they had a choice of a few colors that were specific to, again, the brand guidelines that were set in this specific instance of Site Studio. And you can just see how easy it is, right, in the drag and drop interface to, really look at this page and configure it. And you just saw on the end there of that GIF that it actually went into a mobile optimized space as well. So these aren't just website pages that you're iterating on, they're actually mobile responsive pages as well. So super cool. Again, as I mentioned with the IDEs, there's a ton of resources on Aqua.com. If you're interested in Site Studio or you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat as we're going through. Or check out Aqua.com, right? There's a ton of resources. But some of the things we've heard, again, from our customers around Site Studio is that it's making it so easy to understand that marketers can use it. And I mentioned that I myself am a marketer. I've actually created my own site using Site Studio. But, don't take it from me. Tons of customers actually speaking at Aqua Engage about their experience building and having their marketing team build sites and experiences leveraging Site Studio. So urge you to check out all of the resources that are available or drop in any questions that you have for me into the chat. And so then we'll move into the last phase of really, again, streamlining digital experience creation, and that's by streamlining application availability and security. Because, right, we've talked about developers and we've talked about the marketing team, but what about your security team and what about your IT operations teams who are ultimately tasked with making sure that your experiences are always available and always secure, regardless of how many customers are accessing them and regardless of what kind of data you're storing. And so, again, what's holding these teams back? Well, it's time spent maintaining the platform, maintenance, and setup. I mean, beyond just setup, right? It's not just about setting it up, you set it and you forget it. That's not how it works, right? There's ongoing maintenance for every layer of your IT stack, from storage to your web servers, and then even up into your application, right? There's going to be a ton of different maintenance tasks that your team will have to execute in order to keep your platform up to date and ultimately perform it and secure and abiding by the best practices as they evolve. Beyond that, right, is that we need to be able to monitor not just your platform, but also your application, and then ultimately troubleshoot any of the issues that might be identified relating to maybe application performance or security. And so monitoring is an ongoing process. It's not just something that, once again, you don't just set it, you do it once, and then you forget about it. It's something where if you get an alert, it's up to you to decide as an IT professional, right? Is this smoke? Is this fire? Is it impacting my customers' ability to consume content, right? If we're talking in the lens of a digital experience, is it impacting the experience that they're having with our brand, with our site, with our mobile application, with our wearable app, with Google Home, right? It's across all of those different platforms that performance could be impacted. And then, of course, right, beyond just performance, there's always the security. And so ensuring that your experiences are secure and also compliant to avoid both, a data breach, but also to avoid any fines that might come from being out of compliance with industry standards such as HIPAA and PCI and even FedRAMP, right? That's another consideration that you have to take into account. And it's another, ultimate time suck in your day, for lack of better words here. And then finally, with all of those day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month maintenance tasks, and the overarching troubleshooting and monitoring, there's also always that ask of, can we do better? Can we deliver these experiences faster? Can we be more proactive about security? And so ultimately looking to optimize the delivery of your digital experience. And so with all of these day-to-day tasks, there's very little time left for that optimization. And so because of this, right, your IT team is really being hindered, again, in their ability to do the innovative stuff, to really help with that optimization of digital experiences, to make the customer experience better, and to ensure consistent delivery across all of the platforms that our customers are expecting us to deliver experiences. And so once again, right, we're talking about platform administrators and information security professionals for this section. And one of the things that can really help on the Aqua side, of course, but really across any platform is looking at a platform as a service. And why would we talk about Aqua Drupal Cloud here? Well, here's the thing. Aqua Drupal Cloud is the only Drupal optimized platform available that comes with, a very robust Drupal expert support team. And we are the company, right? If you know anything about Drupal, maybe you're joining us and you're new to Drupal. Our founder and CTO is actually the founder of Drupal. So his name's Dries Boutart. And so we are super immersed in Drupal. We're actually, as an organization, the top contributor to Drupal core year over year. And that's because we're dedicated to, again, promoting Drupal as a CMS platform and then extending it with our own Aqua Drupal Cloud platform. And with this platform, what we're doing for specifically those IT administrators and the security operations professionals is we're ensuring that this platform is always available, 99.95% uptime guarantee, right? So we're making sure that your experiences are always up and available for your customers. And beyond that, we're not just stopping at the platform, we're actually providing support 24/7 for not just the platform, but also the application. So we're enabling our customers to contact our support team to talk about their Drupal application if there was some kind of issue that would occur. And by having that Drupal expert on the other end of the line, we know that we're providing, again, that really tailored and expert support to our customers to ensure that their application is, once again, always available. And finally, we're the most secure and compliant Drupal platform on the market. We're FedRAMP authorized, PCI, HIPAA, the list goes on, of course, for the number of different compliance standards that we meet and we authorize on a yearly basis. And we do this by, again, not just auditing our platform internally, but also having third-party auditors come in and ensure that our platform is meeting the highest level of security standards on the market. And lastly, of course, right, we offer an extension to the Aqua's Drupal Cloud platform. We offer an advanced CDN called Edge CDN, as well as a WAF through Edge Security, which enables you to not only deliver the content that's always available through the cloud platform faster, with 200 cities available to connect, as close as you can be to your end users, but also protect, again, your experiences with a comprehensive WAF that doesn't just use the typical OWASP rules. They also leverage, Drupal-specific security rules to make sure that your experiences are, once again, as secure as possible. So really taking a lot of that burden off of the shoulders of your IT administrators and off of your security operations teams, and ensuring that that experience is, once again, performant and secure, and giving them the opportunity to then go back and say, hey, how can we optimize? How can we make this better? How can we do something innovative? And so at the end of the day, right, we kind of walk through this, but just as a review, right, you need to be able to enable your developers to innovate faster. And one of the ways that you can do that is through a streamlined development environment that's always up and ready. Next, of course, enabling your marketers. One of the quickest ways to enable your marketers without training them on how to contribute code to your sites would be to leverage a low-code solution. So that's a great way to enable your marketers to get more involved without, again, risking lack of adherence to any kind of brand governance you have to the Site Studio. So again, having that enterprise-grade low-code solution that adheres to all of your brand governance necessities. And then lastly, of course, the final way to accelerate the delivery of your digital experiences is to really take all the weight off the shoulders of your IT professionals, of your security team, and let them do the innovative work and take the maintenance of performance and security of both the platform and your application that you're using to deliver your digital experience off their shoulders by leveraging a fully managed cloud platform as a service. So with that, that's actually the end of our presentation today. So I'll actually pass it back over to Mary D.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you, Maggie. And we do have some questions pending here, but if the audience has any other questions, please do put those into the question box, and we will get to answers. So let's get started here. So there's a question about Drupal. What is the advantage of Drupal over other content management system platforms?
Yeah, perfect. That's a great question. So again, if anyone on the line isn't familiar with Drupal, Drupal is one of the largest open source projects in the world. And Drupal is an open CMS platform. And one of the advantages of Drupal over other CMS platforms on the market is that it's open, that it's an open source platform, and that it's contributed consistently by this large community, right? So there are active contributors, and I mentioned that it's one of the largest open source communities in the world. So you've got this large community of developers actually contributing code and ultimately these modules and different functionalities to Drupal. And what this means is that while other CMS platforms, they might adopt ways to deliver experiences across things like I mentioned an Apple Watch or a Google Home, that development might end up being pretty slow. But by having a large community of contributors to the Drupal project, if someone is actively working towards developing a solution to deliver experiences to, say, an Apple Watch, they can then go ahead and contribute that functionality as a module to the Drupal community. And in turn, right, that community is going to validate that it's a functional module, and then it will be delivered, again, to anyone who's using Drupal. So, long story short here, one of the advantages of Drupal is that it gives organizations the ability to pivot super quickly to adapt to all of the new platforms that customers are engaging with, and all of the new trends that are going to emerge for digital experience platforms.
Remind me of how long Drupal's been around.
I think 20 years. I think it just had its birthday.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
So it's had lots of time to work out any bugs and come up with new innovations and just get itself up to speed.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually at Aqua Engage, we have a couple key speakers, both from the Drupal community as well as some of Aqua's customers coming to talk about Drupal 9, which is the latest release of Drupal, and all of the performance improvements that were produced. We actually have one customer talking about how they saw a 100% improvement in performance, right? So they nearly doubled the performance of their Drupal application just by upgrading to Drupal 9. So super exciting stuff happening at Aqua Engage this year.
That sounds really fascinating. That's great. Okay, we've got another Drupal question pending here. Does Site Studio work with any other CMS aside from Drupal? In case you haven't convinced everybody that Drupal is great.
Yeah, no, fair question. So Site Studio actually doesn't work with any other CMS aside from Drupal. Site
Mm-hmm.
Studio is exclusive to Aquia as well as exclusive to Drupal. So you need to be using Drupal. But that being said, if you aren't using Drupal today, Site Studio significantly, again, lowers the barrier of entry to Drupal. So if you're not a Drupal expert, Site Studio is going to make it super easy to get Drupal up and running. And beyond that, right, it's just going to make that time to create sites and the ease of use, again, that much better for you and your team.
Okay. Is Site Studio PCI compliant? And explain the acronym PCI to us.
Got it. Yeah, definitely. So Site Studio is PCI compliant, and so PCI stands for Payment Card Industry. So that's if you're going to, that would probably particularly be for anyone who's handling, again, any kind of payments, maybe through e-commerce online. And so again, the answer there for Site Studio is that it is PCI compliant. And that's because Site Studio is quite literally just a UI ultimately that is sitting on top of Drupal. So if your Drupal site is PCI compliant, then your Site Studio instance will also be PCI compliant.
Okay, all right. Give me an example of when that would be important.
Yeah, definitely. So I would say if you're doing any kind of credit card or e-commerce transaction on your site, so if you're in retail, if you're in retail, I think that's one of the best examples. And again, you're taking through your Drupal application, you're doing any kind of transactions online that involve your customer's credit card data, that type of application. So your Drupal application would then need to be, again, PCI compliant, so abide by all of the standards set into place. Yep.
And that, to some extent, relates to what you were saying about security.
Absolutely. Yes, this would be definitely security and definitely governance as well, because if you're not abiding by all those industry standards set by, or all those standards set by the PCI, that you're going to end up paying fines if you're not meeting those, right? Because ultimately, if you're not meeting their standards, then you're putting your customers' data at risk.
Absolutely.
And no one would want that. Yep.
No one would want that. You are so right. Okay, what else have we got here? Is Site Studio included in the Drupal cloud, and are both offered through Aquia?
Yeah, I think I kind of touched on this, but great question. So the Drupal cloud actually encompasses a lot of different Aquia products. So Site Studio is included in our Drupal cloud portfolio. And actually, if you have an Aquia Cloud Platform subscription, you will have a Site Studio license included. And then, of course, through Aquia, you have the option to purchase multiple Site Studio instances on top of that. So the limit doesn't stop at the one that's included in any Drupal Cloud Platform opportunity. You always have the option to purchase more. But long story short, it is included in Drupal Cloud, and they are both offered through Aquia.
Are you seeing people getting more interested in cloud than they were before?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I would actually say that, at this point, what I'm hearing from most of our customers and, from all the conferences that I've attended over this past year, I think most people have cloud on their horizon, right? It's the vast majority. And I think it's really just looking at, okay, so how are we going to get to the cloud? And then which applications do we not just want to have in the cloud, so something native like AWS or Azure, but do we want to look to a platform as a service provider such as Aquia? So one of the reasons that someone would choose Aquia over, say, just a native AWS solution is because of all the optimization we build into our platform specific to Drupal applications. So that's, again, a lot of times why customers choose us. And I also mentioned our support team, right? Having expert Drupalists to support your Drupal application, huge benefit there for a lot of our customers.
We don't have a lot of other questions pending, so if somebody has a question, do put it into that search box so that we can fully explore this for you. But if not, I would like to thank our speaker for today And if you do have a question, that will be answered via email. So thanks to our speaker today, Maggie Schroeder, Senior Product Marketing Manager, Aqua. So if you would like to review this event or send it to a colleague, please use the same URL that you used for today's event. It will be archived for 90 days. Plus, you will receive an email with the URL to view the webinar once the archive is posted. And just for participating in today's event, you could win this $100 Amazon card. The winner will be announced on October 30th, and we will reach out via email if you are selected as this month's winner. So thank you again for joining us.